As you can see, I have a new look. I want to take a moment and thank my good friend Gray for that. You may remember that I collabed with him twice before, and I think our Spice Up Your Life review is perhaps the best video I have ever worked on. So if you haven't already, go check that one out. I also link his DA in the description. He might take some time with his commissions, but he is one of the best artists I know of. And now let's talk about pony point of view.
Near a tree by a river, there's a hole in the ground where an old man of iron goes around and around. And his mind is a beating in the veil of the night for a strange.
Another episode by the Fox brothers. Still not related. And oh boy, it's another train wreck. Okay, it's not that bad, at least much better than AJ's Day Off. But it does have a couple of problems. I do like the idea, telling the same story 3 times from different perspectives, with each person exaggerating certain aspects. That can make for a fun episode, and for the most part I think it works rather well. I think both Rarity's and Pinky's version are actually pretty funny. Especially Rarity's version of Applejack was actually quite hilarious. This over-the-top sailor presentation of her is simply amazing. However, the episode started to lose me when we got to AJ's version. First of all, I dislike that she breaks the chain. Rarity blames AJ, Pinky blamed Rarity. The logical step for AJ would have been to blame Pinky, but no, as AJ is a stubborn pony that is never at fault and usually suspects the worst of every pony else, she of course blames both of them. At this point I believe that AJ hates everyone. Not only that, her version of the story seems far more mean-spirited than the other. AJ's version of Pinky seems less like an over-exaggeration of a character than simply brain damaged. AJ's Rarity made me at least chuckle a bit with her overuse of the word darling. But not only felt it a bit like a retreat after Pinky's version, it also wasn't nearly over the top enough to have a similar comedic effect, and as a result it felt much meaner than Pinky's version. That being said, if I were AJ I would probably blame both of them as well. If Pinky and Rarity hadn't distracted AJ, she might have been able to save the ship. Of course there's no way to confirm that. But Rarity and Pinky certainly didn't help. Of course you could defend Rarity as she explained in her side of the story that it seems like AJ went nuts. Pinkie Pie however made things worse even in her own version of the story. There was no reason for her to fight over that map except maybe being Pinkie Pie, which again portrays her in a bad way, making her look dumber than she actually is. However, while I can understand why AJ would blame the two, why did she fight over that map anyway? As it was revealed later on, they hardly left the harbor, so she certainly didn't need to navigate. Even if, I'm pretty sure not crashing the ship is more important than staying on course. So we have a bad case of everyone being an idiot. But I can see why they would blame each other. It's a pretty decent example of poor communication kills. Sometimes you misunderstand your friend's intention, which is quite well on display here. They all wanted to show the other two something new. As a result, it seems like they were all forcing something onto each other. That is not a bad conflict on its own. But no, we had to include the whole shipwreck aspect for additional conflict, and the resolution for that is perhaps the stupidest thing we have seen in the show in a while. The ship didn't crash because of AJ, Pinky or Rarity, but because of a monster that was never once alluded before, that was lured to the ship by Rarity's cucumber sandwiches, because it happens to be its favorite food. Okay, I usually try to avoid swear words, but what the fuck? This is the definition of an ass-pull. They never mentioned that there is a monster, and the only clue that there might be something are those bubbles. If there were more hints to its existence, it wouldn't be so much of a problem. Like every version of the event has a detail the other ponies didn't notice, and Twilight could come to a logical deduction by combining those facts. But no, we got bubble, waves and cucumber equals sea monster. That seems a bit of a stretch, don't you think? That being said, this could have been hilarious if they were to change one little detail. Replace the random monster that just happens to love cucumbers with Steven Magnet. It would fit his established personality to love food like cucumber sandwiches. It would still be dumb, don't get me wrong, but it would have been funny. and I like some fan service once in a while. And one last thing. Twilight, if you waste your precious time with exposition nobody needs, and even explain why Rainbow Dash and Fluttershy aren't around, can you at least address why Starlight isn't there either? Just say she's visiting the Crystal Empire or hanging out with Trixie. Why didn't Twilight bring Starlight along? It was a great opportunity to teach her a friendship lesson. It also makes you wonder why she wasn't invited to the boat trip as well, but I can let that one slide. And another random thought. Fluttershy and Rainbow Dash went to a flight school reunion. The one Rainbow Dash dropped out of? Probably bullied out after the Rainbow Crash incident? Now that I think about it, why can't we see that? That sounds like a much more interesting episode that would bring the whole Rainbow Crash thing full circle, coming to terms with the bullies that gave her that nickname in the first place. Sadly, this won't be the next episode. Anyway, let's wrap things up. Pony Point of View is not the worst episode of the season. I think the first 2/3 are actually pretty decent, but then it goes downhill. In the end, pretty much everyone acted like an idiot, and the resolution is a complete asspull, and the explanation why Rainbow Dash and Fluttershy aren't around sounds like a better episode. The one thing I really like about this episode is Rarity's over-the-top sailor version of Applejack. But what about you? Did you like this episode? Anything that bothered you? Do you like my new design? Let me know in the comments. I am Tricky Fox. Stay foxy.
Sly as a fox, you got me under your spell. But you know I'll never tell that I know you know so well. Sometimes you can be too smart for your own good, and you just outfoxed yourself the way I know.